Hey you guys, what's up? I'm Christian, that's Corey, and we are Super Kami Guru 9000, and this is our review of Naruto Manga 670. Honestly, one of the best chapters I've had in a while, right, Corey?
Definitely, it introduced a major character.
You know, a lot of it was reiteration from what Madara said to, who was he talking to? The first Hokage, I think? He was explaining a lot of these things.
Like about the whole backstory of the Sage of the Six Paths
and the queen who ate the fruit and everything. Mm-hmm. And
but it was all told through like those like weird like Egyptian like hieroglyphics.
And like this time it's straight from the horse's mouth kind of
thing.
Yeah,
it's like genuine artwork of the characters. You get to know who they are, their names, their motivations, and even some new stuff that's kind of mysterious.
You know, but before we get into that, I actually want to shout out a few things that we've been doing recently on YouTube. We just got done doing an interview with Everything One Piece, so go check that out. We're going to put a link below. I think it's like a 50-minute interview, so if you want to get to know a little bit more about Corey and I, definitely go check that out. Our video is longer than King of Lightning, so take that. You know? And honestly, it was just a really good time, and Everything One Piece is a good dude, so go check out his stuff too. And the other thing we wanted to shout out is Corey is doing the final episode of the Kill La Kill.
Yes, tomorrow is the final episode of Kill La Kill, one of the most exciting anime series in the last couple of years, and I'm going to be doing my review of the episode, but I'm also going to do a full reaction to the entire episode, no breaks, so make sure and look forward to that as well, guys.
So you're also, we are going to do a total recap of that series as well, because Kill La Kill is one of my personal favorites that's out right now. I may not say it's in my top 3, but it's damn good, and if you haven't seen that series yet, you need to get on that. And it's almost done, so you could power watch through the whole series if you wanted to. It's great stuff. The other thing is we're also going to be releasing our Naruto Movie 2 review later today or early tomorrow. It's literally almost done, and I know a lot of you are excited to see that. We put a lot of work into it. The script is super polished, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's get back to the review. So I found it really funny how in the beginning, Naruto is obviously not the most complex character. So when someone talks to him complexly, he tells him to just shut up and talk normal, and then he kind of ends up making fun of the Sage of the Six Paths when he actually ends up talking to him like he wanted him to. He's like, oh, it's kind of funny because you're like a floating old man with orbs around you, and now you're just saying, what's up, you know? And that whole conversation was really, I don't want to say interesting because there wasn't much to it, but I just, you know, it really brings up Naruto's way of making friends with everyone. You know, he's a very, like, I almost don't like to compare him to Luffy, but they're very simple characters that bring out the best in the people that they're around. And we even see that there are reasons for that.
After a whopping 8 pages of dialogue, which, in all fairness, is actually pretty entertaining and very funny to see Naruto interacting with the Sage, we finally get into the full backstory of why he's so important and the origins of ninjutsu, which basically, we've learned in this chapter that ninjutsu is the bad form of using chakra. The good form is known as ninshu. It's used to create peace. And it makes sense when you think about it, because every single ninjutsu in the series has pretty much been used exclusively for death, for killing, for creating giant chakra bombs of death that will rip you to shreds. Hell, there's a guy with an ability to turn his body into a voodoo doll. That's not going to bring peace. That's going to bring sociopathic nature. But ninshu, why is it so important? Well, it stems from, of course, the big chakra tree, and it has that fruit. And we've learned about this in the past. But this time we actually get our first full view of Kaguya, who we can now say is the strongest character in the entire series. They say it in this chapter.
They say it.
So take that, Madara. Kaguya would whip your ass. So Kaguya took the power of the fruit and she used it to basically control the lands. And you can even see there's this great panel where she's standing over her kingdom and there's lightning exploding all over the ground. Maybe to show us that maybe she's not exactly evil, but she leans a little bit more towards the dark side. But we go on a little bit further in time and we get to see that she had 2 sons.
Not the Sage's 2 sons.
No. The Sage of the Six Paths had a brother who they don't want to show us this week. And they show us this one shot where they're fighting against the Ten Tails, and he looks a little bit like Madara with his big flowing hair.
Yeah, he's got the Raditz hair.
And they do mention that they both sealed the Ten Tails into us. This could be a mistranslation from what we're reading. It could have just been that the Sage of the Six Paths and his brother worked together to seal the Ten Tails inside of himself, and then they immediately move forward from there. They don't bring up his brother again, which is kind of annoying.
Didn't even show you his face. They didn't even show you his face.
Nor did they give him a name. But they do go back, and we finally get a little more explanation about the Sage's sons, which are Indra and Ashura. Indra looks like he's the guy who founded the Uchiha clan because he has all of the power, including the eyes.
Yeah.
And Ashura is, I'm guessing, where the Senju clan came from, and he looks a little bit like Naruto. And this is where the biggest part of the chapter comes in, and this is the thing that blows my mind the most, because throughout this entire arc, hell, throughout the whole series, they've basically been hinting that Naruto's like the reincarnation of the Sage of the Six Paths.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he's not. He actually is a reincarnation of someone.
We heard a ton of people throughout our review history. We've heard a ton of people say Naruto's the reincarnation. As soon as he gets all the beast powers, he's just going to turn into the new Sage of the Six Paths. But it's not that. It's that he is a reincarnation of the Sage's son.
Mm-hmm. Ashura, to be exact.
And it makes perfect sense because he's the one that has to work really hard and the one that brings people together. The community, the Barack Obama, if you will, of the Naruto universe.
He brings it home. He really does. Like, basically, they have this whole comparison where Indra has all of the power, and because of that, he just, sort of destroys everybody. But Ashura was born with nothing. He had to build all that up. He had to start his own clan. And over time, he actually did gain that power. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the chapter, they drop that awesome bombshell on us, which is that Naruto is actually the reincarnation of the Sage's son, Ashura. Mm-hmm. And he also starts to explain a little bit more. This is when the war between the two clans started, and the final panel is really awesome. It's essentially Indra and Ashura fighting, and I'm guessing that Indra is actually like using the big Susanoo that's very similar to Madara's. It looks almost identical. But Ashura, he's using a weird like Kurama form, which we've never seen before. I'm guessing that maybe he was the very first Jinchuriki of Kurama.
Yeah, and it also has a lot more humanoid and, like, extra arms.
Going with the whole Ashura theme.
Yeah, exactly, because doesn't that mean a certain number or something?
It's, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on, Japanese mythology or, Asian mythology for that matter. I don't know where Ashura stems from, but his name going with the whole multi-arm thing, I've seen that in multiple series. I believe even Zoro has an attack that is an Ashura ability.
Oh, yeah.
He summons like multiple arms.
The multi-arm sword technique.
So it's, we've seen that before, but it's really cool. I like the way, like you said, it looks more humanoid. It has like a different like face mask. It has multi-arms with the black chakra balls. It looks really exciting. This was just a really great chapter.
It was really good. And there's obviously an easy comparison, I think, with the queen that took the fruit of the forbidden tree. There's obviously kind of like an Adam and Eve sort of like comparison there.
The biblical stuff.
But it's different in the sense that like it's like if Adam and Eve ate the fruit and then smacked God in the face and said, "Wait, we're more powerful than you now." Because that's kind of what it's like. It's like God came down to discipline them, and they're like, "Wait a second," and they just beat God's ass real quick.
I mean, no, I totally see your comparison now because like you stole the fruit. That's from the Garden of Eden. Yeah. The Ten Tails is essentially God.
Yeah,
or like a physical manifestation of God's anger, and he's basically punishing mankind. And
but they won, which is very opposite from the way that biblical story is supposed to go.
But other things, I liked the Sage of the Six Paths design because it's been hinted at throughout the whole series. A lot of the stuff we've seen, the robe is there. I do find it interesting that he actually does have horns as opposed to it just being his spiky hair.
Just like the queen was called the rabbit demon.
Yeah, she had those big rabbit ears.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually like part of his design. It's not just hair, It's like
he also has, and I'm not sure, or we're not sure if it's even painted on or if it's an actual third eye. But he looks like he has a third Rinnegan eye right in his forehead.
I guess some people might speculate, and I'm sure we have that if that is an eye, maybe he'll give it to Naruto, and that's how Naruto gets a Rinnegan.
Everybody's been saying Naruto's gonna get Rinnegan eye.
Yeah, but now we have a real way of seeing how that could happen.
Personally, I still hope that he doesn't. And that's just because it will go in line perfectly with the whole reincarnation of Ashura, who did not need the power of the eyes, but simply needed the power of himself and his friends to accomplish what they needed. And I think that would be great symbolism for this. I think by giving Naruto the Rinnegan eye, it would defeat the whole purpose of him being like the reincarnation.
You can give it to Sasuke, though, I guess.
Speaking of Sasuke, since we saw this week's chapter and we learned that he is indeed the reincarnation of Ashura, maybe that means that Sasuke is the reincarnation of Indra, which is almost a guarantee.
That it's probably for sure. Now the one thing is, maybe it's causing a big problem because you could also say that Madara was the reincarnation of that son. So now we have Madara and Sasuke existing at the same time. So is that fucking things up? I don't know. That may actually have something to do with one of the main problems and how Madara is actually even getting so powerful.
All I know is this is a great chapter because usually we're action junkies. We love that stuff. And this week was pretty much like all dialogue, but
good stuff.
It was stuff I was really looking forward to seeing. Hagoromo, the Sage of the Six Paths, is a really cool and complex character. And I'm just glad that we finally got to see him in full view. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, believe it or not, especially about his brother and everything.
Well, that just opened up a whole new chapter. It's like,
and the fact, like, how does Hagoromo even do all of this? Like, is he just like a time-traveling funky ninja ghost? What the hell's up with that? All I know is I loved this chapter. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. So all those people that say we only give 10 out of 10s to action chapters, suck it, okay? Yeah. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give us a thumbs up on the video if you like it. It's the best way to support the channel. Subscribe, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. All those links will be down below. Really appreciate it, you guys. Stay tuned for the rest of the content, like the Naruto Movie 2, which we're finishing today, review. And until next time, Super Kami Guru 9000, out.